Realizing that this is the last Sunday before the election, I considered talking to you today about how this election is affecting my spiritual life. I even started writing it. But in the end, I just couldn't talk about this election anymore. So my total message to you today on that particular topic is, please honor our fifth principle and vote. Now, leaving that behind, I want to begin this morning on my actual topic by sharing with you what the author Kingsley Amis writes of one of his characters. He was of the faith chiefly in the sense that the church he currently did not attend was Catholic. I think this might be true of many of the Unitarian Universalist faith as well. The church they currently do not attend is the closest UU congregation. They may have a basic belief system that aligns with UUism, but attendance? That is a whole different question. Why do some people choose to attend a religious service and others don't? You might wonder why I'm talking about going or not going to church to a room full of people who have obviously chosen to come. It's called preaching to the choir, isn't it? But I want to articulate the value of why we are here. And I want to strengthen your resolve and mine to be here regularly. Now, I have no doubt that attendance next week will be very high as we welcome back our settled minister, Andy, after his 4-month sabbatical. It will be so good to have him back. But hopefully attendance will stay high, because I hope that attendance at VUU is more than a loyalty to a particular person. The late UU minister Robert Rabel wrote, "Roman Catholics attend Mass wherever they are and no matter who the priest is. But Protestants are inclined to attend church where they are attracted to the preaching of a particular minister." He continues, "There are 3 categories of loyalty. The first, to a person, a higher one to an institution, and the highest to the ideals for which that institution stands." Where do we fit in? Every UU minister I have had the opportunity to know and work with has expressed at some point their dislike of the weekly blurbs that summarize their sermon and must be submitted to the newsletter early. They object to the idea that congregants want to read about the topic coming up and the person in the pulpit and then decide if they want to attend that particular week. I must admit, I have always been an advocate, a rather strong advocate, for keeping that blurb, but I understand their point. Should we really decide whether to come or not based on a particular topic and speaker? Or should our loyalty to attendance go deeper than that? Why then should we go to church? Why be with the faithful on Sunday morning? Why be part of a worshiping community? I would suggest 2 reasons. If we are a people of faith, we are called to be with the worshiping community first because we need the community and its ideals. And secondly, because others need it, and they need us to provide and sustain it. I want to share with you a story from UU minister Reverend Edward Frost. He writes, "Once, at a social gathering, a man was regaling me with a familiar line some people think ministers find entertaining. He said he hardly ever went to church. I said, I'd noticed that. And I said that because I knew he was the kind of person who, if he were not somewhere, would really want his lack of a presence noticed. He said that he didn't need to go to church himself. Nothing there for him, he said proudly. Of course, I send money, he said, again proudly, because I think the church ought to be there for those who need it, because it's a good thing. You know how it is, he said. Risking the loss of at least the money he sent to the church in his place, I responded, well, no, I don't know how it is. At least I don't know how you are. I don't know how it is with your spirit. And actually, I don't know anyone whose spirit isn't in need of a little healing, or at least a little nurturing and growth. That's part of why we go to church, I said. That's what going to church is all about, to try the Spirit, to test its depth, to touch its wounds, to add the comfort of our presence to the journey of others. And for my finishing touch, I said, to claim a wholeness and completion of the Spirit is a sort of heresy I really don't understand. I'd like to say that he was so impressed and moved by my words that he was in church every Sunday thereafter. But no, didn't work that way. And yet, there it is. There is at least the partial truth of it. We live our lives in the midst of a culture that has very little time for healing, nurturing, or growing the Spirit. And so we gather to help balance our lives. We listen to hear some snippet of an otherwise pedestrian sermon. Words that describe us, raise up our hurts out of denial, light up a path of hope and possibility. We come here because without magic, without bells and whistles, and with scant hope of miracles, we declare the holy in the midst of daily living, and we lift up what is sacred to us. We gather to proclaim for our lives' sake, with the confirmation of others in lives like ours, that indeed there is holiness, sacredness, value, possibility. That is what worship means, right? Worth-ship. Declaring, inputting, worth. It's always that, regardless of the preacher, the sermon, the music, or the pageantry. And the second truth I found in this story is only slightly different. Faithfully being a Unitarian Universalist, faithfully being a person of liberal religion, means joining ourselves into community. Here, week after week, is the place and time in which we declare together what is good and just. It is the place and time in which we gather the power, the vision, the inspiration, the courage to put that declaration to work in the world. Claiming to be a Unitarian Universalist in isolation from a religious community, well, what does that mean? Maybe it's just not being something else. It's just not believing this or not believing that. Like the man in the story, I've heard many people say they are intellectually Unitarian Universalist. I'm not sure what good that does them or anyone else. Well, intellectually, I'm an Olympic athlete. I just... But I don't want to be snide, and I don't want to make this sound like an easy commitment. It's not. I was having a conversation a while ago with Joel, another member of VUU, discussing our grown children, both raised in the Valley UU community, and both having chosen not to attend as adults. His daughter and my son still both live in the Valley, close enough that they could attend if they made it a priority. Neither one do. I really try not to pressure my son and daughter-in-law about the choices they make as a family. I don't always agree with their priorities, but I respect that they are making choices that they feel are best for them. My role is to love them, not to judge them. So it was with some trepidation that I finally verbalized my, well, I guess you'd call it disappointment, that they have not chosen to be part of a UU congregation. A short but insightful conversation followed. I suggested that the community would be a huge support as they raised their family. They felt they already had a supportive community, although not through a church. I suggested that they both believed in the principles of Unitarian Universalism, and participating in the life of the church would help put those principles into action. They responded they had so little family time together that having their Sunday mornings together was a commitment to their family welfare. They couldn't take care of the world if they couldn't take care of each other. I suggested that my son was a deep thinker. He was a philosophy major in college, after all. And he would benefit from setting aside some time exploring the bigger questions that are often part of sermons at VUU. When else did he get a chance to nurture that side of his being? He responded that the big questions can't be effectively explored in 15 to 20 minutes, and he would probably come away more frustrated when he felt only the surface had been scratched on any given topic. Finally, I asked if they wanted to give any kind of religious education to their daughter. They said, probably, later. And so we left the topic, and I have never approached it with them again. Apparently, my fellow VUU member Joel had almost an identical conversation with his daughter, but he had a different closing. He said he told her at the end of their discussion that if she didn't feel like she needed VUU, maybe she should consider that VUU might need her. Oh, Joel's wisdom, why didn't I think of that? I don't think those words worked, by the way, any more than my closing words did. Both of our children are still UUs in absentia, but it started me thinking again. There is a responsive reading that we have in the back of our hymnal. It's called, "We Need One Another." Listen. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success, when we look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when with encouragement we might endure to stand again. We need one another when we come to die, and would have gentle hands prepare us for that journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. There it is, that last part. And others are in need of us. We gather in communal worship because we need it and because others need us to be here. We gather in support of these others, even though we may be thinking, oh God, is he talking about social action again? Others are in need of us. Every Sunday morning, the connections made possible by our simple presence could bring the grace that someone needs. I have been the guest speaker at a few very, very small congregations. I tell myself, I console myself, with one of the very few Bible verses that I remember by heart. Where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am in the midst of them. Worship does not require a crowd. And yet, there is power in assembly. And up to a point, the bigger the assembly, the greater the power. When you need others for yourself or to accomplish some social change, and you look around this room and others are here in numbers, it makes a difference. You come and you help fill this space, and it makes a difference. We are able to create positive change in our world so much more effectively when we become part of the power of assembly. And so I want the people I care about to find a home here, because I think they need us to be the best they can be. But I would also ask people to come to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation each Sunday with doubts, misgivings, crowded schedules and all, because, well, those children who came down front this morning, they need you. That older gentleman over there, he needs you. That young woman behind you, she needs you. And because, well, I need you. Our regular presence with the gathered community is a declaration of our faith brought into the wider world. But it's also a gift you give your own spirit, a gift you can give to others. Thank you for that gift. Blessed be.